Hello, welcome to the Enchanted Kingdom of Hermione. We're up here in the Turret of Pleasure. We're watching Drone Fest here in Victoria, BC, filmed by the ever reliable microphonic fool who makes this channel tick as well. Just kind of going over it. I'm somewhere in the middle. We may even run into it. Um, but we're listening to music more than anything, and it's a red letter day here in the Enchanted Kingdom's Turret of Pleasure, because finally a holy grail has been located, and it's not the kind of holy grail you might expect. Um, and for this wonderful moment, I have to thank the good people at Sony Classical, of all people. Um, Over the years, I have determined that I think I like CDs better than everything, and therefore I want all of my favorite music in an official CD format. That is sort of the aim of my collection, or one of the aims anyways. And to that end, I have moved heaven and earth to locate stuff that I really love, so I have a CD of it. And this includes weird things like Doggone AD by Julius Hemphill, which finally came out on a great CD a few years back, complete with the Coon Business session, a landmark record in jazz. Get Up With It by Miles Davis. I had to get a Japanese copy when I was in Europe. It was my first copy of that, and I've since gone through at least two others, including, of course, the deluxe metal box set with the On the Corner sessions. Most of Get Up With It is on that, along with all kinds of amazing extra stuff. And the Captain Beefheart records that I love so much are all out in digital. Recently there was a box, what the hell is it called again? Sun Zoom Spark, which came with the Lick My Decals Off, Spotlight Kid, and Clear Spot albums, plus a CD of extra stuff, which is mostly great. And so that covered Trout Mask. Has really never been out of print on CD. Trout Mask, another great one. And on, just about like Sellout by The Who. I got the 5 CD box set. Lark's Tongues and Aspic by King Crimson. I got a umpteen CD box set. So the last word on these records that I really, really love, even an Eric Satie record that I totally love on Erato, which was the first record that I knew of that had Vexations on it, and it also had Music as Furniture, and it had the intermission music from Lash, and it's just an amazing, great, wonderful record. I finally discovered, maybe 2 or 3 years ago now, that it had been released on the Apex series of Warner Classics, God knows when. It's long out of print. I had to actually pay a collector some real money. Not real money, but more than I would. That's the kind of thing I would find in a thrift store. Anyway, delighted. I was delighted to find it. But the one record eluded me, and that was my favorite record of all time. And that record is a record that I got sort of by a fluke. I was involved in a really bad accident when I was a kid, and I had no music. I was in the hospital for 100 days. And the only music I got was every once in a while on the AM radio, they'd play Love Is the Drug by Roxy Music, which was their current single. Great little song. Gotta admit, I'm sick of it now. But it was all I had. And so I'd enjoy that and wish I could listen to something, anything. And one day, I just started to get interested in classical music. And I noticed that on the terrible, if you're old, you'll remember these dreadful old TVs. Little black and white TVs on an arm with an earphone. But I noticed they did have PBS, and one fine night they were going to perform a piece by Stravinsky, and I like Stravinsky. I The Rite of Spring. I think it was all I really knew about Stravinsky. Maybe a few other pieces, the really, easy ones. And they mentioned they're going to play a piece that I had never heard of called La Noce. And it was, I think Michael Tilson Thomas, was involved, and there was the version that is normally done for La Noce, which is 4 grand pianos, percussion ensemble, chorus, soloists. And to say that it blew my mind when I saw it on TV, Evening at Symphony was the show. And I was absolutely just melted in my head. And so nothing was for it. Once I was able to get out of the hospital, I managed to do a trip to Vancouver, and I went to the big record store in town and went combing through Stravinsky looking for Les Noces. Didn't know a damn thing about it, and I found the copy of this record. And the copy that I got is not the version for 4 pianos, unlike literally almost every other version. It's the 1974 release of Robert Kraft doing the full orchestra version, and the first half of it done for a strange ensemble that Stravinsky envisioned, using a player piano and cymbalums and percussion instruments and whatnot. But he only got the first half done because he couldn't figure out how to work the player piano in. Anyway, that's the version I bought when I went on my junket to Vancouver, and I absolutely fell in love with this record. And to this day, and it's weird because it's vocal music, and I'm sort of resistant to vocal music, and it's very Russian and very strident. There's a lot of which is not really my cup of tea necessarily, but it nonetheless, it's very highly regarded piece by most people in Stravinsky's canon. And it's one of the very few pieces of classical music that if I see a version of it out there and it's not super expensive, I'll just buy it. Just to hear it done one more time by some different forces. But this wonderful record, I found 2 copies of the album. The one that I bought in 1976, I guess it was. And I found another one in a thrift store, which I gave to a friend for their wedding, which I gave it to Ford Pier on his wedding, and I think he got the got the sentiment. And I haven't really seen it since, but it's one of those things over the years. I would check. I found the Satie record. I would just check. I'd punch in every once in a while. I wonder if that Satie record ever came out on CD, and I'd punch in whatever CD, and finally one day it popped up, Apex. Ooh, went and bought it. Same thing here. I finally just punched it in at random the other day, and up came, it's Robert Kraft Cube. And I went, Cube? How could Robert Kraft have made a cube unless it's like a great big brick of CDs? And so the great news is that I have found my favorite record of all time on CD. Finally, after God, how many years since I bought it? Almost 50 years. 49 years. The bad news is I had to buy 43 other CDs in a cube-sized box set in order to acquire it, which is not the end of the world. And I give you the Robert Kraft Complete Columbia Album Collection, aka the Cube. And this is another one of these weird Sony classical box sets. Now, if you watch the channel, I did one on the Ives box, which is the Ives Columbia and RCA releases. This is everything that's owned by, I guess it's Sony, and Sony owns BMG, which is RCA. Anyway, I sort of knew, but I didn't know that Mr. Kraft, this is a weird one, because most box sets are either performers, like pianists, whatever, singers, a lot of the time, conductors, and usually with specific orchestras, like, Karajan with the Berlin, or Haitink with the Concertgebouw, or whatever. Kraft never really had an orchestra. He used whatever forces. A lot of these pieces, a lot of the stuff he championed was all kinds of different things, so it didn't really work for him to be a city orchestra fellow. So he was kind of freelance, and his main claim to fame is that he met Stravinsky, I guess, in the 50s, and I'm not absolutely sure on this. I think it was in the 50s, and became very close to Stravinsky, helped him out a lot. Towards the end of Stravinsky's life, became the word I cannot pronounce, and he was Fenby to Stravinsky's Dahlias, if you will. And ultimately, at the very end, and there's one cute thing in here where the record said it was conducted by Stravinsky, but in fact it was conducted by Kraft. But nobody said boo. Now, I'm going to quickly pop this open because this was $230 Canadian at my door in 3 days. Free shipping thanks to whatever. So I'm not going to complain. It was expensive. It's very much like the Glenn Gould box set, except that it's a lot smaller and there isn't a hardcover book in it. But it's very, very similar. The spines are the same. They got the number of the CD on the spine. It's pretty good. Now this is wild because it consists of a lot of different things. There is, well, as it says here, the music of Arnold Schoenberg, and that's pretty much it's the complete Schoenberg. And this was done, most of these recordings are from the late 40s, maybe early 50s. And the one that I love, and I'm going to pull it out just to show you, where am I here? This is, I believe, the latest recording in this box set, and it was recorded in 1973. And that's they've done this, again, they've been doing this consistently. Original cover, right down to the detail. Every detail's great. The back cover is exactly the same with the notes. Bring your magnifying glass. And as a touch that keeps nerds like me happy, the label is period correct. It's even the right font, believe it or not. Interesting. Only a weirdo like me would know this. But at any rate, I have waited, well, as long as CDs have been available for this to come out on CD, and now I have it. Now what do I get in addition to that? Because I'm happy enough. I get absolutely like reams of Stravinsky, reams of Schoenberg, lots of the New Viennese school. We got there are a couple of weird ones in here. Well, there's some. Okay, it's mostly modern music that he championed, and he was very much a champion of stuff that wasn't getting, in his opinion, played enough. So the complete music of Anton Webern, Schoenberg, Gesualdo. He loved Gesualdo, I should say. Schoenberg, Boulez, Le Martre de Saint-Maître, and Stockhausen Zeitmass. And I haven't heard that in a long time. Oh, this is just... Okay, well, where's... It says Zeit... Oh, nope, I'm looking at the wrong one. How did I get... There you are. Yeah, okay, these are great. And if I remember right, these have the old labels. There's a couple of Mozarts. If I remember correctly, there are... I think Glenn Gould is on a couple of these, on the Schoenberg. There's a Monteverdi double. Oh, what year would this be? 67, it says. Okay, that's sort of later. I think there's the only one that's in the 70s, and that is post Stravinsky's death, is this one. And that's sort of why I think it went through the cracks, because the complete Stravinsky came out, but this wasn't in it because that was the complete Stravinsky conducts Stravinsky, which technically he couldn't have done because he was dead. So, and this was the sort of, it was like the Les Noces that was done earlier by Stravinsky, which is also here, there, done way back when, 1962 or 67. I think it's 62 is this one. Anyway, where am I here? This was the sort of, he never really finished this, the minimalist one, and he was sort of constantly fiddling with the orchestral one, but it's sort of what it would have sounded like with a full orchestra. I'm sort of completely hooked on it, of course, because I grew up with it. I know the whole damn thing off by heart. I barely need to hear it again, but I had never had a good pressing of this record. They were all swishy, douchey pieces of crap, and I burned a CD from an LP. It sounded like ass. These sound great. I don't know exactly what, they haven't done much to them, because they're already pretty good recordings. But there's no artifacts. It's just there. So the sound is kind of typical of the era of Columbia. I don't know how to describe it. It's a little boxy sometimes, but I haven't really listened to a lot of this since I bought it. So I might come back to this later. I can't imagine there's anything to complain about. A giant, big, fat book, and they've really done their research. They give you, and I really appreciate this, as a guy who has made records. There's a little article, and then they get straight to it. Each CD, they tell you where it was recorded, what day it was recorded, which is pretty great. And if I remember correctly, it's a little bit confusing because I think there are also like producer credits, and but I don't think there's engineer credits. But I could be wrong. Let me see. Recorded in New York City, blah blah blah. So you get the day it was recorded, and then the LP matrices, which are some people want. I can kind of live without those. There's no. I think later on we start getting credits for who's engineering and whatnot. I'm just going to keep checking. Oh, we got the publisher. Good thing. Recorded Los Angeles Hollywood Radio Recorders 57. No engineering credit. Hollywood. Okay, so maybe that in maybe. I would have liked it. I don't expect it because probably a lot of this. Oh, it's producer John McClure. Okay, so none of these seem to have. These are pretty old. Released 1959. They didn't really list record producers on classical LPs in those days, so I get it. They've got publisher. You get Edgar Varese, Poème Électronique, and they point out original recording of Poème Électronique created, directly on magnetic tape, i.e. Robert Kraft actually didn't do anything with this, but here it is. And thanks for that, guys. There's another great little detail somewhere in here, actually right at the end. One of the last things, in fact, is the Danses Concertantes. Now, what is it, 16 to 20? When was this recorded, the 16 to 20? Oh, and recording engineer Edward T. Graham. Okay, so the later you get, the more information you get. This one gives you the producer, the engineers for everything, the LP matrices, and what is 16 to 20 here? I'm trying to find it. 1967. Okay. So 1967, Stravinsky basically quit conducting. And so it says here on the cover, there's the cover, Stravinsky conducts, and then this list of stuff. But in fact, there's a little asterisk here, and it goes, in his later years, Igor Stravinsky used to share the podium. Blah, blah, blah. Both the Columbia Masterwork recording files and the final LP artwork do not, in all cases, accurately reflect which work was actually conducted by whom. For correct attribution of conducting, we refer to the research of Igor Stravinsky discographer Philip Stewart, who kindly collaborated with Sony Classical on the release of Igor Stravinsky, the complete Columbia album collection. So in other words, Kraft conducts this, but it doesn't say so on the old album cover. Nice way of doing that, and it's accurate. Great. You can't ask for more in a box set. This is going to take me months to listen to. I may never hear all of it. Doesn't matter. I got Linos. That's all that was job one. I got to get Linos on CD. What? I got to buy a whole bunch of really great records on CD as well? Okay. I'm in. I am that sucker. I'm going to buy it. Robert Kraft box. There you go. I doubt anybody else will buy it that watches this channel. If you find it in a garage sale for $5, you should buy it. And it will, like the Ives, as Mr. Hurwitz says, it probably won't last. So if you are inclined, think, the problem is I sort of went, okay. It came out 2023. It flew under my radar. as did that Satie CD. So that's how it works. Anyway, thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe and all that other stuff, and you get the stream of gibberish from me. There's not a lot going on here at Drone Land. I'm going to turn on the soundtrack and see what's going on. This was a lot of fun. This is where all of us synth nerds get together and make a continuous drone for, I don't know how long, 6 hours I think this was, in Cavity Curiosity Shop, my friend Andy's store, downtown Victoria. And we're having a very artistic week in the retail sector. So, anyway, thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you later.